What's good with y'all, man? What's good? What's good? Just wanted to jump in and answer a few questions that I got on Instagram. A few graphic design questions. I like doing these on Instagram, but I thought maybe I'll make a YouTube video out of it just because it's like sometimes when I answer, it's like I want to give a detailed response, but it's like there's only so much information I can give in a story post. So yeah, I've just got like a bunch of questions from the design community here. Zaven asked, I just wanted to ask what's the best way to get clients, and is using other apps besides Adobe Illustrator fine? Yeah, of course. There are plenty of other apps you could use, like other than Adobe Illustrator. You can use what is it? Like I think it's like Affinity Designer. Then there's another kind of like a free version of Photoshop. If you're a beginner graphic designer, I would highly recommend you check that out before you like spend the bread on Photoshop. But yeah, it's okay. Photoshop, I mean Adobe is kind of like the industry standard, but ultimately like the tools don't make you, you know what I'm saying? So like whatever you want to use, for your design process, like as long as you use it well, like I think that's the only thing that matters pretty much. And what's the best way to get clients? I think there are a bunch of things you can do to kind of like maximize your chances of getting a client. You know what I'm saying? Number one, have a portfolio off the jump. You know what I'm saying? Number two, like if you don't have like an idea of how much you want to charge or what you want to be doing, figure that out. And you don't have to have it all the way thought through, but just figure that out. If you're going to be a logo designer, you know what I'm saying? Or if you want to be a brand designer, you want to do packaging design or whatever, figure that stuff out, and then just kind of try and establish some kind of base rates for yourself, so that then you can use that and say like, okay, here are the things that I know that I want to do and I want to charge for. Now let me go find clients specific to those things that I'm interested in. Once you have that stuff established, okay, now you can go find clients, and word of mouth is going to be one of the best ways to do that. And then I'm going to say have a portfolio page, and if you can sign up for websites like Behance Careers, I think there's like Dribble uh, careers or something like that, then LinkedIn, Indeed, like there are freelance opportunities throughout all of these places. Just like maximize your visibility on every single one of those platforms, and if you know exactly what you want to offer, then it's going to make you easier for you to find a client to reach out to. And I don't think there's any better way to do it besides that. And then also you can like start sending out cold emails to like local people, but I've never done cold emailing, but as far as the others, I think that those are going to be your best bets, pretty much word of mouth and just like maximizing your visibility across platforms like LinkedIn, Indeed, Dribble. I think another one's like Creatively or something like that. Just find those freelance opportunities and make sure your portfolio is A1. Okay, next, is it possible to create a master black and white logo, and if you change its shape, all color copies update too? I know you could probably do that in Figma with like some sort of components thing. I'm not a master at components or Figma or anything, but that sounds like something that Figma would be able to do. So yeah, check out Figma for that. GeoWhoop asked, what does it take to improve one's graphic design skills? I feel like as a graphic designer, you're always gonna be trying to improve. There's different ways to improve. You can improve by like maybe reading a book, learn graphic design principles. I usually talk about there are two ways to be good at graphic design. Well, not to be good at graphic design, but there's two ways of like approaching graphic design. You have your concept, and then you have your execution. So execution wise, if you're looking to improve, reps, put the reps in. Practice makes perfect. Watch tutorials, do stuff like that. Just if there's a specific skill that you're after, or a specific look or feel for your designs that you're after, watch a tutorial. Just keep practicing, and eventually you'll nail the execution that you're after. But it's just going to take practice with that. You can also approach it from a conceptual standpoint. You're looking at it conceptually, then you need a little bit more knowledge about the basic principles and understanding of graphic design, you get into the realm of utilizing things that aren't necessarily hands-on. You don't need to know Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator to come up with a concept or think conceptually. So if you're trying to get better at graphic design conceptually, you need to kind of like nurture that part of your brain. So just practice coming up with concepts and ideas, and whether that be through research or word mapping, stuff like that. You can also kind of look into kind of like the basic principles of design. Learn art history, learn your gestalt principles. All of that stuff is going to help you conceptually with design. Okay, I don't know how to say this person's name, but best advice you can give to someone who wants to pursue graphic design as a career. If I was giving advice to a graphic designer, I really want to know a little bit more about what they like to do, and what they want to do. And that way I can give the best advice, but questions like this, I kind of have to be a little bit like vague so that it's kind of all encompassing for everyone, and that's hard to do. There's a bunch of lanes you can take with graphic design. My best advice to that person, considering from a standpoint of they already know what lane they want to go in, if you want to do advertising, if you want to do illustration, if you're thinking along the lines of doing freelance, make sure you use contracts and figure out a project management system. Those two things alone will save you a ton of headache, because contracts are going to help you set boundaries with clients. And two, if you have a project management system, it saves a lot of the back and forths. It allows for your client to have a place where they can reach out to you instead of reaching out to you via a text message or calling you on a phone or something like that. They can just leave a comment within your project management system and say like, hey, just following up on this, like, where are we with it? If you're trying to pursue a graphic design career as a freelancer, those two things alone, I think, are going to be extremely beneficial for any graphic designer. Now, if you're not pursuing freelance, then you're just pursuing graphic design as a career, but you want to work for a company or you want to work for an agency. If you don't have any real world like client work, create some projects for yourself. Do a design challenge or something. You're going to an ad agency. It's going to help to have examples of body copy or advertisements. If you're going to go to an ad agency, your portfolio needs to look like you want to go to an ad agency. If you're looking to go into graphic design as a career and do merch design, your portfolio needs to reflect merch design. If you're torn between 2 or 3 different things that you want to do, put all of it in your portfolio. Have examples of each one of those things in your portfolio. Partey asks how to make design in professional standard. There are a bunch of rules in graphic design. Just learn the rules, learn how to use columns, learn how to use grids, learn how to use white space, learn the difference between micro and macro spacing. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but I think as far as the basics, that's gonna be it. Oh, color theory. Learn color theory. Is majoring in graphic design worth it? I think that's a question that anybody who's looking to get into graphic design like kind of has to ask themselves, what I'm saying? Majoring in graphic design has its perks, especially like if you're going to a graphic design or art school that's like highly accredited, like maybe that makes it worth it. It gets your foot in the door with like being around kind of like-minded people, or someone who you might want to work with. Maybe that school is accredited enough to mean a lot to a potential employer, or somebody that you want to work with. Overall though, I think it just boils down to like do you trust yourself to kind of be a self-starter when it comes to like doing graphic design, like, or do you need like assistance with things? Do you trust yourself to go out and seek the knowledge and be curious about it enough to not need to be kind of tied to a curriculum of some sort? I think that's gonna be a decision for you. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, and financially, does it make sense for you? You know what I'm saying? Is it worth it? Like, um, yes and no. You know what I mean? So I think it's always going to be kind of like a personal, or kind of like a a back and forth between that question. Is it worth it to go to graphic design school or not? To answer your question, I think yes and no. Financially, is it worth it from going to graphic design school? Is it worth it to take on the financial burden? No, it is not worth it. You can learn everything through courses, YouTube, whatever, coaching. You can find a mentor, communities, graphic design communities, whatever. It's not worth it to take on the financial burden. Best way to start graphic designing: just be curious about the subject matter. Be interested in the subject matter, and use the tools that you have at your disposal. If you only have scissors, some old magazines, and some glue, use that, and go out and get a scanner and start making collages and posting that stuff. I think that's the best way to start graphic design, is to just be curious about it. I want to start and improve my skills, but I have no idea where to. I want little projects or challenges to improve and work, but I am so uninspired. There are Instagram accounts out there, like there's one that's called like the Creative Brief or something like that. I could be wrong on that, so I'll post it here on the left if I find it. In my experience, when I'm feeling uninspired, you kind of need to distract yourself from trying to work or come up with ideas. You just have to kind of let the ideas kind of come to you, in a sense, throughout the day, throughout the week, whatever. If I get an idea, I'm stopping what I'm doing and I'm writing it down. And by the time I get back to the computer, it's like, okay, let me go through these ideas and see what I have to work on. I think that's one way to stay inspired, because ultimately, when you go back to that idea, you're going to remember what inspired you with that idea in the first place. If you have enough ideas to keep that going, then you'll always be in kind of like you'll kind of develop a rhythm for jotting down ideas, and then once you get back to the computer, you can just work on developing that idea. Let it come to you, and when it does, it'll come in the form of an idea. And next time you sit back at your computer, look back on that idea and use that as your form of inspiration for whatever next project that it is that you're going to be working on. What guided you down the path of graphic design? I don't know exactly. I've always been creative, you know what I'm saying? I've always done like little creative things. I was designing like t-shirts and stuff like that, taking like transparency, like film, cutting silhouettes out of it, and like using an airbrush to like spray paint it on t-shirts. So that was kind of like how I started. I was like doing that, and then I also had like I was also designing like shirts and stuff for like friends and like family or whatever. That kind of turned into me getting a mentor, and then to me getting a scholarship to go to school, and then to me being here pretty much, you know what I'm saying? A very, very simplified, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I've never seen myself doing anything other than graphic design or like anything art related pretty much. So, I guess I've been fortunate enough to always know like what it is that I wanted to do, how to expose yourself and get more work. I think the way is gonna be like posting to as many platforms as you possibly can. Um, don't bottleneck it, and just try and post to only, and just try and focus only on like Instagram or only on Twitter. You need to be posting to every platform in order to kind of maximize your reach. At the same time, while you're doing that, obviously, you're going to want to take into account like all the things like the hashtags or whatever. Overall, just make sure you're posting to every platform just to maximize your visibility. What's your favorite work yet? My favorite work is definitely going to be the Sonic the Hedgehog poster that I did. I'll put it on screen here, but that's my favorite poster I've done so far. What's the first thing you suggest doing if you're starting to do graphic design? Maybe look into design history and find someone that inspires you. I think that can do a lot for new designers. Perna said, "What can we do to make ourselves more productive and creative except just practicing continuously?" I think get out and experience things. Like if you want to design merchandise, then whenever you go to the mall or like you go to like a concert or a show or something, make an effort to like take pictures of all the merch. You know what I'm saying? Like if you can develop a habit of just kind of looking into things that you enjoy alongside graphic design, or looking at them with a graphic design eye, or incorporating that stuff into things that you already like, then I think that'll help a lot, especially with just kind of cognitive thinking, like creatively. If you want to be a book jacket designer, look at the covers of books all the time. If you want to do merch design, look at a bunch of merch design anywhere you go. Look at people's t-shirts. Go to vintage thrift stores, and see what stands out to you and take pictures of that stuff. I think those are things that you can do away from the computer that are going to help you to develop your own personal kind of way of approaching design, because I think it's a healthy practice, is to familiarize yourself with, oh, that looks bad, that looks good to me. That looks bad, that looks good to me. It'll help you develop your style. So, yeah, I would like to start making cool posters, but I don't know where to start. Text, images, it's totally going to be up to you. I wouldn't think so much about it. I would just start kind of putting some things on a page, maybe just pull together a document of like a bunch of things that you like, or like a bunch of typefaces you like, a bunch of like icons, images, whatever, and then have a separate document that you just start loading those things onto. You want to start with text first, you start with text. If you want to start with the imagery first, start with the imagery. I think it's completely up to you. Danny said, how to lose fear of not being okay for your client. I think that's just you being in your own head, you know what I'm saying? Which I tend to do a lot. If they're already your client, it's evident that you're enough for them, you know what I'm saying? Stop thinking about it as much, and just kind of work towards getting the client what they want. I think another way of doing that is kind of just ask the client what their expectations are from you. I think it's just a matter of just getting the feedback and just asking how I can do better, or how can I make it better, and setting expectations. Next, how to be known by people and get clients. Try and stand out, whether that be through like your personality, whether that be through your work, or whether that be through your work ethic. I think that's going to be your best way to get noticed by people, and also to turn those people into clients. I'm struggling to find a signature style. How did you find yours? I don't even know if I have a style. I guess I kind of do, but I would say I found my style from using trends. I just try and recreate the things that I saw, recreate it in the style, recreate the feeling of it. If you're trying to find a style, I think you just keep on with the trends until you don't want to follow the next trend anymore. I know graphic designers say like, oh, don't keep up with the trends, don't keep up with the trends, but I think trends are what helps graphic designers kind of grow in a sense, and what helps graphic designers find themselves. I feel like everything at a certain point was a trend, and it's just a matter of like practicing and trying new things until you find something that you ultimately enjoy more than anything else. Your way of doing that doesn't necessarily need to be a graphic design trend, but I think if you're looking to expedite the process of finding your style, I think that's a good way to do it. You can find your style many ways. You can look into graphic designers that you like and enjoy, and try and figure out what that design or what that art kind of feels like or looks like within your own interpretation. Or you can try and do some shit, you know what I'm saying, and see if it works for you. I think there are many ways to do it, but the way you go about doing it ultimately is always going to be up to you,